Guys, big news, kind of, in that we may be getting actual news about Kirby Air Riders pretty soon. As Sakurai tweeted last night on the 20th anniversary of his company being Sora, that he expects that he'll be able to talk about Kirby Air Riders pretty soon, or something involving soon. So, we don't know exactly how soon will be, but I think if Sakurai's teasing it, that probably means it's going to be on the sooner end, hopefully, in this case. So, given the fact that we know almost nothing about this game, I want to talk about our hopes and dreams, but with a slightly different angle, more in the sense of what our greatest fears about this game is going to be. Because I'm a huge Kirby Air Ride fan, I'm super excited that we're even getting a sequel at all, but at the same time, you know, I'm a little bit hesitant on what exactly that ends up looking like, because again, we've only seen a short, like a pre-rendered trailer of the game, and even Sakurai himself said that they haven't shown anything of the game itself, so even that pre-rendered trailer, I wonder like how reflective of the actual game is it going to be. And yeah, I just want to talk about this game more, and you know, with it within the context of what we're afraid it could end up being, and then you know, using that as a springboard for what we hope it actually is. So, first of all, what is our concerns about the timing of this announcement? Like, are we worried that soon doesn't actually mean soon?
Yeah, and like Sakurai's words, soon can really mean anything. I hate to say it, right? Like soon could be like a week from today, soon could be like at the end of this year. But we already know that it does have a release date or release year of 2025. So soon hopefully means like within the next month or two. So we can actually get a date for it coming out this year. But knowing Sakurai and with his games in the past, they've had delays. So it's very possible that we get an announcement or we get another showing of the game with actual gameplay. And he's like, oh, it's not coming out till next year, being 2026. So that's, I guess my first fear is that it's possibly delayed.
Yeah, my main concern is like they will show gameplay. I'm not sure about the date though.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great point, because they can show the game whenever and it can still come out whenever, right? And it still this year still feels, yeah, maybe a little too soon, only in the context of we've just got Mario Kart. But, you know, it may not matter. I hope it's still on track, because I'll play this game whenever it releases. And, yeah, but yeah, my big fear would be that it's not, you know, releasing this year either. Or that, you know, even that we don't find out about information all that soon. It's actually months away. However, I am thinking we're going to get sooner than later, at least seeing more of it. You know, I think possibly within the next couple of weeks even. So, you know, people are expecting a direct next month. That would be good timing, you know, for it, if that ends up being the case. And, but yeah, if it gets delayed, that would be sad, but, you know, would be to the game's benefit, I imagine, so.
Yeah, and Andre, you bring up, like, seeing it in the next couple of weeks. The thing is, like, the earliest we're going to see is September, right? Because we got Kirby, the Switch 2 edition of Forgotten Land at the end of August. So there's no way that they're going to, like, muddle up the messaging with, like, oh, here's an announcement of Kirby Air Riders, and then here's the Switch 2 edition of Forgotten Land. Like, that's going to be way too much Kirby in such, like, short amount of time.
I can't believe I'm about to say this. What if Kirby Air Riders is the September game?
That soon?
That would be ridiculous.
That would be insane.
Man, that would be such a marketing like a last minute marketing push for it. That would be just, so you're saying just like that's almost a shadow drop. Like you're just effectively blowing it out in the final few weeks.
I mean, what? The strategy of Nintendo has been weird over this past period.
You're right.
There's not even denying that. I don't know what's going on. Like, at this point, you would have thought that they would talk about whatever is coming in September. The fact that they still haven't makes me either speculate the fact that it's soon. If it's really relatively soon, then what is stopping them? Because basically, we know next to nothing about the game. They're going to drop a whole bunch of information and just be satisfied for a while.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I forget. Did we get box art for the game? Do you remember?
No.
I don't think we did.
Unless you count that one image of Kirby off to the right side and then the actual title to the left of him. Like, I think that's all we've gotten, but we've never seen it with the Switch 2 box art.
Yeah, no, I don't think it's weird. Yeah, especially now because that probably could have possibly revealed more than they were willing to at that point, because as we know, that trailer, I mean, as we suspect, that trailer didn't seem to show off a whole lot. Which makes me wonder now, going with this crazy idea of Dawn's, and we'll get to our more fears soon enough.
Sure.
What if it's a digital only release? Like, what if they're going the DragX Drive route, it's not a full retail game. It's instead an online focused game. And it's a big digital only. And they could do that last minute push with literally 0 leaks and not having to worry about, getting shipments out there.
I can see that happening, and again, this is gonna fall into my fear for this game, right? I already have pretty high expectations because I love Kirby Air Ride on the original GameCube. So if they do just go with the shadow drop direction, the price range will probably be $40, right? If it's digital only, right? Because if we look at Nintendo's past digital only games are smaller titles, Drag X Drive being $20, Welcome Tour being $10, and then you can look at something else what was it? Everybody Wants to Switch being $30, even though that was also had a physical release. If they're going to go with a larger IP, I think $40 is probably where you're going to go with a digital only game like Kirby Air Riders. And that just brings more fear. It's what if this title isn't that large? What if it is an only online experience? What if you can't play offline with friends? Or what if it's not even what if City Trial isn't even there? I'm oh my god, thinking about that more. I'm I'm going into a panic.
I want to go that far. I definitely think the most popular part of the original Air Ride will be in Air Riders.
Yeah, one would hope, especially as Sakurai, specifically brought up City Trial years ago when making Smash Run. We mentioned that was the inspiration for Smash Run. So yeah, you actually kind of dialed in a lot there, Nick, that I think is worth parsing out a little bit.
Yeah.
But I guess, because I don't think it's impossible that is something that they're doing, and I think, so I guess related to that, one of my greatest fears going by the trailer, which again, may mean nothing, is that this is a super budget release. We literally saw 4 Kirbys for the same character, nothing else except riding on a handful of vehicles that were already in the first game, in an environment also very similar to the first game. Again, I don't think it necessarily means anything, but it could. And that would be my fear, that maybe this is it is an online focused budget title. There may not be as much content to it as some might expect. And looking back, the original Kirby Air Ride wasn't exactly a super fleshed out title either. Only had a handful of racing maps and all that. But, if they released that these days, people would definitely consider that overpriced at 60 or 70, I think. So it does kind of maybe open the door to this being a more online, or a more, digital online focused title. Which I don't think is necessarily the worst thing. It just depends on how they position it. Or how it actually ends up being. Because, I'll go to my next fear, and this is kind of based off what Nick was saying, and you mentioned it too, Don. I think my greatest fear is that this is focused only on the racing. That's all we've seen so far. Yeah. We've only seen the races. The thing is, the racing in Kirby Air Ride's always been kind of mid. It's fine with it. It was good and fine within the context of City Trial, when you had, the power-ups and all that. But by itself, it wasn't that good, especially in a world where, we just got a new Mario Kart game. So my fear is that they're leaning into that, and City Trial maybe somehow doesn't exist.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like I said, all those other points I brought up, and just bringing it down to a budget title and just cutting off, not fat, but other modes that we really enjoy, right? City Trial is my favorite part of Kirby Air Ride. But if they are really going in that direction for a smaller title and a digital-only release, Kirby has a precedence of doing this before, right? We've seen smaller budget titles from Kirby in the past where we're just going to throw it on the eShop. Here's $20, right? Dream Buffet, wasn't that the most recent one?
I was thinking that. What if this is the new Dream Buffet?
Exactly. And the thing is, Sakurai loves giving us updates, right? Going back to the days of Brawl, right? I remember waking up every single morning and checking out the Smash Dojo and being okay, what's the update for the day? Even though if it wasn't something big, it'd be oh, you can get food. This is the new food item. It's why do I care? I know food's been in the game.
This time, those daily updates are going to be pink Kirby, blue Kirby, red Kirby.
Yeah, it's gonna be, if that's the thing, if Sakurai's oh, the game's out in a month, I want to give you guys updates. Oh yeah, here's the Warp Star, but yeah, it's pink or it's blue this time. That's it. Tell us a little bit more about the game. Yeah, no, I'm getting nervous. I'm getting nervous now.
I think an open question I would ask is, where would you put the line as it being a $40 game in comparison to being a $60 game?
I think I think a big part of it is if there's a single player or not. If there is a single player, an actual campaign or story, I think that's how you get that $60 price point. If it doesn't have any of that, if it's more like Drag X Drive, for example, where it is focused purely on the multiplayer experience, which I'm actually okay with. I think that's how you get to that lower price point, if not even, lesser than that. I think Kirby's Dream Buffet, I think, was a $15 title, and I enjoyed that, but there wasn't a whole lot to it either. I thought it was a good game, though.
That was a really good game.
Yeah, the biggest problem with that game, honestly, was the god-awful online. And that's another concern, because Sakurai's games, at least Smash Brothers, have not historically had great online. And so that is a slight concern, is what if Kirby Air Riders Online also isn't great? I suspect it will, but that's a fear, you know, like what if it uses that same, I forget the technical name for it, that same frame-based, you know, online, where if someone falls behind, you have to wait for them to catch up before anyone can do anything in the game, you know, and it's the worst thing ever.
Yeah,
delay-based netcode, I think is what it is, maybe.
Yeah, and that is a major concern with this game. If it's always online, right, or you can only play online with friends, because like if you look at Brawl's online was terrible. Smash for Wii U and 3DS wasn't great. Kid Icarus was surprisingly good, I think.
That was decent.
I played, it was decent. I feel like better than all the other ones. And Smash Ultimate is still kind of hit or miss. So like his track record for online games isn't really there. So if this is only online, a digital only game, then I hope that the online is on par for what we're kind of paying for.
I mean, assuredly it will have local, right?
I am certain it would, yes. But I think for me, where I'm at in my life, you know, I barely play local multiplayer these days. And so whether or not it's a digital online focused game or not, and it gets, you know, whether or not it gets a retail version, it doesn't change that I needed to have online and good online for me to enjoy it, you know? That I barely would be playing with friends local, so I need that online. And I think the game itself, like especially with City Trial, lends itself so freaking perfectly to online that my fear, here's another fear, is that they're not leaning into that. I already mentioned like they focus on the racing, but more is that, yeah, what if they're not focusing on City Trial? Though I think they will. I would be shocked if they don't, for the reasons that I said. And I think, but that will be a fear. It's like, if City Trial's not the main focus here. But I think that's actually the secret glue that holds the entire package together.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I think they need to bring back City Trial, especially that we didn't get it in Smash Ultimate, and it was only there for Smash for 3DS. Right. So, like, Sakurai has only put it in 2 of his games, really, being the original Kirby Air Ride and then Smash for 3DS. So, and he has to know how much the fans love City Trial, right? Like, whenever I go back, that's the mode I'm playing, like, every single time.
They almost should just call it Kirby Air Ride City Trial. Like, Kirby City Trial. Ditch the Air Ride part.
Didn't use the similar statistics also in Smash Tour?
What do you mean? For the end of...
the Wii U version of the game.
I'm trying to remember.
Oh, are you saying the overall stats? I think. When you go around the board, you would get the power-ups. I think it's similar to Smash Run and City Trial as well.
Yeah. So it's not like on you... It's something he likes. It would be really weird if he suddenly says, you know what, no, I actually didn't like the design of City Trials anymore. I don't like all these statistics. I'm going to drop everything out of this game.
It wouldn't make a whole lot of sense, yeah. Like, the only thing would be is if, like, it had either a really compressed development schedule or a really low budget or something. That's the only way it will make sense. But given his own seemingly adoration for City Trial, it has to be a focus of this game. So that brings me to my next fear. What if, as we saw in the trailer and as in the original game, this is still just a 4-player focused experience? I think I'm sure I would still have fun with it, but I think I would be a little disappointed by that. But I think having more players to this would just be more engaging. Like, we see Mario Kart continually update, you know, how big its player count is. I think Kirby should do the same thing too, in particular because, you know, having a lower player count also, like, affects things like the world size, and I want them to go even bigger with this. Like, they're, you know, with City Trial presumably, hopefully coming back, you know, I want the world to be even bigger and do more interesting things with it. I think more players gives you more opportunity for that.
Yeah, and like you said, Andre, with City Trial, even playing the original one, I felt like 4 players, you still had so much space. So even like upping that to 8 players or 12 or even 16, I think like, the original City Trial area is pretty large as is. But I mean, if we're going that high, why not make it a bigger, expansive area? Like, I'm down for more worlds to explore, more areas to explore at City Trial. Like, I think it was kind of missing like an ice area. I don't think it had that. It had the volcano, the city, had like the underground area, and like I think that was mostly it. So like more terrain or more varied areas would be nice for it.
I do think that having too many players will maybe end up making the gameplay a bit too chaotic or over the place. I do think that you can up it a little bit, but there's also need to be a sweet spot of where the game still has its focus.
You know, here's an interesting, what I think is a possibly interesting idea. what if you have like different islands, right? So you have a small amount of players on each island, and then the leaders of that island who win like whatever little competition there is that they have like at the end of City Trial, whoever wins that, the top 2 or whatever, they move on to a final arena with all the winners of all the other islands, and they compete each other in one final challenge, right?
I like that, and that can give like I guess variety to if you want to play with a specific amount of players, right? Like even if I want to play with 8 or like say it goes up to 12, maybe those other islands are restricted to those set amount of people. But maybe there is a mode, Andre, like you were saying, where it's like, oh, there's all these smaller islands, and then you go and fight in the one final larger island.
Right. What do you think of that, Don?
I like that.
Yeah. I would love to see them just like make it even more varied. I think, you know, one of my actually here's a fear, not my greatest fear, but I love City Trial. I want to stress how much I love City Trial, but I think there's also still a lot of opportunity to grow it, and I hope that doesn't just stick to like exactly what worked before. Because I think one of my small issues that, you know, I think could be more of an issue when playing online and maybe a little more frustrating, is that you spend 5 to 7 minutes collecting all these power-ups only to have a challenge that just does not fit your lineup, your power-ups that you got at all. Like, you have 0% chance. Like, if you didn't manage to find, but a lot of it is luck-based and randomness. And so if you're in a race, like a drag race, which is in the game originally, and you don't have enough, you didn't get any top speed stats, you're screwed. There's nothing you can do. Literally nothing you can do. So I think having, like, a mixture of challenges would help. My island idea might help with that, for instance. But maybe, if not that, like, maybe a best 2 or 3 challenges or something. I give you, like, multiple challenges, so that way kind of better rounds out whatever power-up selection you have, where it's not an instant game over for you, and it doesn't completely nullify the 5 to 7 minutes or however long the match is before that, you know?
Yeah, I definitely felt like there's like luck based, or I wish there was like an item that you would collect, and then it would be like, oh, like if you collect these 3 pieces, kind of like the Dragoon pieces, it would give you a hint to what the round's going to be. So it would give you a better idea of what items to go for and which ones not to go for.
Right. Or just more an expensive map where you have different missions on the map and you just go where you want to go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. I wonder about the character selection. Like, based off what we saw in the trailer, just 4 freaking Kirbys. Why? Like, the original game didn't exactly have a huge cast either, but it was more than just Kirby. But, you know, it did give me, again, a little bit vibes of Kirby's Dream Buffet earlier, where you literally it is just Kirby, I think, right? Plus, I think were the costumes for the characters, Meta Knight?
Yeah, you can put mask on your face.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my fear is that somehow that trailer is more representative of the final game than we thought, and you literally are only Kirby.
Yeah, I think that is a big fear, right? Like even if they don't put in DDD or Meta Knight, it's like, okay, I guess we're losing characters at that point instead of gaining characters. And Kirby has like a slew of characters they can add, like add more villains, add more sidekicks. Like why aren't these characters here? But I guess it kind of also goes back to they're restricted based on of like their power-ups, because if you played as DDD or Meta Knight, you couldn't absorb any of the enemies to get their powers. You just use like the hammer or like the sword for Meta Knight. So maybe that's why they kind of want to restrict it. But at the same time, I think Sakurai's creative enough to be like, hey, like if we put in Banana D or whatever his name is with the banana and the spear, like he can use the spear, right? Yeah. Like, yeah, I think he is creative to kind of work around those characters.
Who do you want, Dong? What Kirby character do you want to play as?
Banana D is obviously a good one. I mean, there's also a lot of side characters in the recent Kirby games. I'm not sure how prone Sakurai is to those, because he's not that involved with Kirby anymore.
Right.
But a lot of the side characters in the previous number of Kirby games have been really interesting allies.
Yeah. Yeah, they do.
I guess, yeah, so do you guys think we'll get, like, mouthful mode in this at all? Like, will there be any connection to land? Like, like if you see a skyscraper, if we're playing in City Trial and you have the opportunity to eat the skyscraper, then you're like jumping around the map, like jumping on the other Kirby's.
That'd be hilarious. I don't, only for a couple of reasons. I feel like that was just one of those one-off gimmicks that we won't really see again outside of like the Switch 2 expansion. And also, it wasn't a Sakurai developed game. You know, not that he's entirely adverse to non-including things, but I feel like it's just not a game of mechanic that's probably too important to him. And it's hard to imagine that like really fitting in within the gameplay of City Trial, so... But maybe
I guess the only things you could get is like a car or something that would help you with your movement, maybe like a boat. But yeah, like I can't really see it fitting in there as well.
Don, did you have something you were going to add there?
Not necessarily. I was gonna say they should also probably improve the racing. We're talking so much about City Trial.
It's all that matters. But yes, continue.
Yeah,
but racing is part of City Trial, so yeah.
But the racing in general, like the actual racing mode, I had a decent amount of fun. It looked really pretty. I think if you make it work on a fundamental level, it could equally also be fun. Because, there were a lot of falters in how that game functioned.
Yeah.
And I think that with time, they actually have an opportunity to make racing actually fun.
So do you guys think that they'll go with like more simplistic then with the racing? Because Kirby Air Riders is like a one-button game, but when I think of other games that kind of use the air board or whatever, I think of Sonic Riders, and that has like a meter, you can do tricks and stuff. Like I feel like it's a little bit more complex than something like Kirby Air Rider.
Yeah, I think they just need to focus it on 2 buttons instead of 1.
This is a great point. That actually is one of my fears, is that it sticks to the same simple control scheme. Because I think that actually is largely what hampered the racing, in that there was almost nothing you could do. Like, if you just sat the controller down, it would get to the finish line within a few seconds of someone actually trying to play the game. Like, you didn't have to try that hard. Yeah. And it also made things unnecessarily difficult, too. Like, because, like, when you would get a power-up, you would activate that power-up with the same button that did everything else, which is brake or power slide. And so in order to use a power-up, you had to inherently slow down, which is counterintuitive, right? So yeah, they definitely need to improve the racing, I think. The racing could be good. That's actually a great point. Like, we're so focused on City Trial because the racing itself in the original game wasn't that great. But if they improved it, it could be good by itself. To the degree that you wouldn't necessarily need City Trial, though that would make me very sad. And a lot of people sad that there's no City Trial, But if the game were still a good racing game by itself, that could work. But to do that, 100%. You need more in-depth controls, separate functions from that one, make it so you can activate power-ups independently. Make it maybe if you can inhale other objects on the course and spit them out as obstacles for others, like you inhale an object, spit the green shell at someone else, basically.
Yes.
And also, the tracks need to be bigger. Like, the original game was so narrow down these corridors, it just kind of limited your gameplay options, because, like, no matter what, you're making that corner. It's just, there's no avoiding it, it felt like there wasn't a lot of skill expression in that game, and they really couldn't.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
But that's why also, like, most people gravitated to City Trials, right? Because there was not much else there in the original, if we're being really honest. No.
You're right, there wasn't. It was actually a pretty, I don't want to say shallow game. It's weird. It had 3 different modes, but 2 of them weren't all that replayable, in my opinion. It was just City Trial, which, kind of made fun of that. So, yeah, I'm trying to think of what else. There was something else I was going to say here. Oh, here's one. It's another fear, in the sense that it related to the racing that I think they can do more with it being Kirby Air Riders. Like, there's more you can do with that air idea, I think. Like, have actual, like, flying segments. Because the original game didn't really have much of that during the actual racing. Like, you are in the air every now and then, but you're always, like, being pulled to the ground pretty rapidly, unless you have a whole bunch of power-ups or whatever in City Trial.
Sure.
And I think they could probably lean into that, add, like, more of an aerial experience. And they may even tease that in the trailer, where we see Kirby, like, starting off, like, falling with his warp star before he gets an engine and, like, flies away, So I wonder if they could lean into that a little bit more to, like, add some depth to it.
Yeah, especially since they took out, like, the gravity from Mario Kart, right? Like, that's not really there anymore in Mario Kart World compared to Mario Kart 8. Like, I just thought, like, going back to City Trial, what if you can, like fly up the buildings? Like, and just, because that wasn't something you can do in the previous Kirby Air Rider game, right? Like, what if that could just take you to a higher height, and then you can fly from there? Because, like you said, Andre, when you're in the air, it's really pulling you down. Like, you don't really have a lot of options to stay in the air. And it's in the name, Kirby Air Riders. You think you'd be able to fly a little bit longer.
Right.
It was funny, though, getting max top speed, max acceleration, especially if you get, like, one of those crazy vehicles, and you're just zooming around, like a rocket ship, in City Trial, at least. And what are we thinking about how? So the original City Trial had this kind of interesting idea where you could, there were different vehicles lying around, you could swap to them if you wanted to. But I almost never did that, because those other vehicles were so different, and, like, each had, like, they almost took, like, their little niche to the extreme, that, like, you had to kind of counterbalance it with the appropriate power-ups. But do you think they could do more with that system? Like, do you think they can make that more interesting and better balanced? Or do you think they'll ditch it entirely,
I didn't even think about that, because even when you go from your current vehicle to your next one, it takes a while to get to it, because when Kirby's off of the warp star, he's so slow. Like,
if you get your vehicle destroyed, you're slowly walking, to your next one.
Yeah, you just feel like you're walking there, and even when you fly, you take forever. And that's the thing, like it's I guess risk versus reward there, which is kind of cool because if you see another vehicle, like you want to go after it, but then your opponent could just run you over in the process. But Andre, like going back to your point, yeah, like there was no middle ground. It was either like you had like the highest top speed, or you had like the best like acceleration, or you had the best control. There was nothing really in between that. So yeah, I don't know where they would go with that. Either balance it out a little bit more, or just like you said, kind of ditch it all together.
Right.
Dom, what are you thinking?
I don't know. I don't think it necessarily matters. Like Andre said, I don't think I barely switched to any of the other vehicles.
Yeah.
Because there's really no point to it. Like you could tie certain vehicles to characters and just perform it that way. I don't necessarily think it adds much to the overall flow of the game.
It didn't, no. That's why I wonder if I think if they do bring it back, they would have to reimagine how that works. And I'm not sure exactly how that is. Like, maybe they could go full GTA. Have it so everyone, like, there's little NPCs driving their own little vehicles around. You can hijack them if you want. You just suck them out of their vehicle and Kirby hops in and takes it. Wouldn't that be amazing? Yeah.
I love that idea because in City Trial it just appears and it's just like randomly sitting there.
Right.
And like you guys were saying, like I would go after another vehicle just because it looks cool, but was it really that good? Like I would see like the lunchbox one, the pink one, and be like, oh, this is cool, but it was so slow. I'm like, why am I getting this again? I just stick with the Warp Store because it's probably one of the best ones.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it's really well rounded. Yeah, I don't know, maybe, and that could also help, like having vehicles driving around could help mitigate the fact that in the original game they were super far away, you know, just like head to a roadway and you'll find a car there or something, right? And it will also help make like the world feel more lively, whether or not you can steal them. Like that would be fun. Like the world itself feels even, you know, feels more alive. Because in the original game, like I liked exploring and it was fun, but it did just feel like an arena that was city themed, you know, rather than being an actual place. And you know, kind of to what I said earlier, like it'd be neat if, you know, like if not multiple islands, if there are multiple regions that you can go in. So it's not just the same static arena every time, but it can be different. Maybe even with random elements within it. And I think, or even too, like one of my favorite things about the original game was how it had these like random challenges that'll pop up. Like, hey, you know, something's happening in the lighthouse, or you know, this character appeared, go like destroy them or whatever. Like if they lean more into that too, like maybe more micro challenges within the context of the know, larger final challenge, that could be really interesting.
Yeah, and I love that was also a feature in Smash Run, right? Like it might be like, oh, like you hit an enemy and it's like going to explode, or there'd be like bombs just dropping from the sky, or like I'm just thinking of explosion ones because I remember just like throwing bombs and there would just be large explosions. But like you said, Andre, like there'd be an enemy and it's like go take out the enemy and you're rewarded with like maybe this specific stat or this thing. Yeah, I think micro challenges would kind of help with the flow a little bit better. And I was even thinking, going back to like your island point, what if like each island you would go on would determine like what kind of round you get like after the 5-minute clock is up? Like what if you go to an island, it's like, oh, this one's specifically for like you're going to get like a race challenge, so it's like, oh, maybe I should go for like the acceleration power up or whatnot. But yeah, giving a little bit more variety to the islands is something I think it needs to be here, because again, like if City Trial is the main focus for it, like I think a variety of that would definitely help with gameplay in the long run.
Yeah, and kind of to that point, the original game would occasionally give you a hint as to what the final challenge would be. Maybe leaning more into that too, like giving people an idea of what to expect for at least one of the challenges, and then giving them a better way of figuring out how to get those power-ups. Because in the original game, again, it was like pretty much random what you got. You go break boxes, you know, and you collect whatever power-ups that they dropped. And, you know, maybe they can make it a more consistent way of getting specific power-ups. That way it's like, hey, there's a race coming up, you know, you better get some of those top speed power-ups, and then people can be like, oh, I know how to get that. Yeah, go to this area, or do this thing, you know, and they can make it more of a, you know, competition, too, for, like, for limited resources. But in the original game, like, you could go an entire match without even needing to interact with your opponents, you know, because you were just so focused on what you're collecting. And again, I want to stress, I love the original game for City Trial, so, you know, but I think there are ways that they can enhance the idea and, like, really make it even more competitive in the moment.
I just thought on another fear, Andre. Like you bringing that up. Yeah, this one's not good because this fear reminds me of, I'm trying to think of how to word it, but this fear is that City Trial, if it's brought back, that it's only restricted to you at your own individual island, kind of how Smash Run was. Because if you guys remember, when you play Smash Run, you don't interact with other players. You go for the 5-minute timer or however long it is. You go, you get your power-ups, and then you interact with everyone.
God.
So that's my fear, is everyone has their own personal island. You don't see each other at all until you go to the final round and when you actually compete with them. So I hope that's not the case. I hope that's not the case.
That is a great fear, because that actually is probably the worst one we could possibly have. Because, yeah, I love the idea of Smash Run, except for the fact that you didn't interact with each other at all until the final challenge, and that took away what I loved about City Trial. Like, I like they did exist, and you were competing for limited resources, even if, you know, even with the small flaws I mentioned earlier, where, like, there was so many you didn't need to directly compete necessarily, but you had that option at all times, and not having it just made it so I didn't play Smash Run much, but I didn't find it that fun, you know, so, yeah. Well, any other final fears, guys? Or have we covered it all?
I think we covered most of it, to be honest.
So what's real quick? Oh, go ahead, Don. Go ahead, Nick, please.
Yeah, I have one more. So I guess my last fear is that, again, if it's this smaller title, if it's a budget, that they don't go with racing, they don't go with City Trial, but they go with the third mode, which is the top-down mode for Kirby Air Riders. I'm like, the one I can't remember the name of because I played it once, and I'm like, why am I playing this? It feels like a Mario Party mini game that's not even fun. That's probably one of my biggest fears. I'm like, I do not want it to be the third mode.
Remember that they brought it back for Street Pass and Smash 3DS?
Wait, did they really? Oh wait, was it kind of like...
Yeah, it sort of was like similar, wasn't it?
I was thinking of the Beyblade ones. Is that the one you're thinking of?
It is very Beyblade-esque,
You drop the Beyblade down and everyone just kind of bounces around the board.
automated, so you didn't have much lenience over it, to be honest.
Well, if it helps, Nick, I think the one thing we can glean from the trailer is that it seems like at least proper racing is back. So I wouldn't worry too much about the top down. I mean, it was. I agree with you. Like, it was a fun mode once or twice, but there wasn't a whole lot to it, you know. And I don't need that to come back. Though, if they actually did embrace it as part of City Trial, I could maybe see it like it's like one of the challenges. But yeah, that was one of the weird standalone things that it only existed as its own thing. But yeah, I guess I'm really curious to see what the scope of this game is, because depending on how it is, either way could work, whether it's a full retail release or just a more limited online game. I just don't want its potential to be capped by that, right? Like, I hope that no matter what form it is, it really does embrace the City Trial aspect and does some new cool things with it, rather than it being a more limited release where you're, I don't know, it's just not that much of an improvement over the original game beyond the graphics and being online. But it is still fun. Like, everyone's excited for this game. By everyone, I mean anyone who played the original game. But they haven't shown us anything to really warrant that excitement, right? I mean, beyond it's a new version. But, like, they've shown us literally nothing new about this game at all, except that it looks better. And they added an ER to the, or RS to the title, right?
Yeah, and knowing Sakurai, like, going back to the fears, I hope this wasn't a game that he was making during his sleep, right? Like he was doing the YouTube channel, and he's like, okay, that's taking up most of my time. I'm like kind of retired, but I'm gonna make another Smash game. I have time while I'm sleeping, so I'm gonna make Kirby Air Riders, but it's gonna be a smaller title. I hope that's not the case. I hope he really hunkered down and focused on making this more than what we're kind of thinking that it might be.
I forget the timeline now. Was it almost a year ago now where he revealed he was secretly working on a game while he was working on the YouTube channel, but he had already filmed those videos in advance? So, like, are we looking at like a 2 or 3 year development cycle for this? Or
I think roughly 2 years. I think we're looking at right now.
I think 2.5-ish, roughly. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, and you compare that to, like, say, Bonanza that just came out, and that had like a 7-8 year development cycle, seemingly. Which, I mean, it doesn't necessarily mean anything. Majora's Mask was made in a year. 1080 was made in 6 months. Granted, these were decades ago. So yeah, doesn't necessarily. I mean, sometimes I think having that shorter focus, like them, that greater focus on having like a smaller development cycle, can be beneficial. So I don't think that's inherently a negative. I just want to see what the heck this game actually ends up being. So yeah. So real quick, I just a quick way to cap it off on a more optimistic note, because I am really excited for this game.
Sure.
Don, what is your ideal version of this game for you? What does the perfect Kirby Air Ride sequel look like to you?
Racing feels good, tracks are rider, City Trial is as best as it's ever been. That's basically the most ideal version of that game. That doesn't need to have the third mode that was in the original. just racing being very good, and City Trials being even better is like the most ideal scenario, to be honest.
All right, perfect. How about you, Nick?
Yeah, besides what Don said, I mean, I want good online. I want this to have online. I want at least some local multiplayer because I do like playing local multiplayer with my friends. I want there to be like a good unlock system, right? Because in Kirby Air Riders, we did have like the little tile base, which I think that might have been the first Sakurai game that they kind of brought that into because it was also in Smash for Wii U, 3DS, Kid Icarus, and so on. So I hope that the unlock system is somewhat enjoyable, and I hope that there's things to unlock and to kind of go for.
Yeah, that's all good points. And I will say, actually, to its credit, Kirby's Dream Buffet actually had a good amount of unlocks. You know, and they were actually pretty fun unlocks. I actually liked how that game handled it. Like, I actually wish like Drag X Drive took some more pages out of that game's book because its amount of unlocks seem much more limited and not as fun to get. And Kirby, also Kirby Air Ride had like that, like it was like one of the first. I feel like one of the first innovators on the achievement front. It had that, like, an amazing grid, you know, for each mode, and whenever you unlock something, it would pop, you know, unlock, like, it almost felt like Picross or a Minesweeper or something. It would allow you to see the nearby challenges and unlock those. So I hope they lean into that, too. And it makes me wish you had a proper achievement system so you could really fully embrace it. But yeah, my perfect sequel, I think, and I say this knowing that they can deliver something I'm not even expecting. I could still love it, you know. But I wanted to go all in a City Trial. I almost wanted to be like Nintendo's Fortnite, if you will, but I feel like City Trial always had that kind of like light Fortnite-esque, you know, feel to it even before Fortnite, where you're in the same environment, you're competing for the same resources. Like, really embrace it. I want more players online. It needs to be good online. And I really want like online City Trial to be the focus of this, with good racing adding to it, as you mentioned, Don. Because yeah, even when you got those challenges, like the racing challenges, like, you know, I enjoyed it in the context of like, oh, it's like capping off everything we've earned, but at the same time, the racing itself kind of sucked, and it largely came down to the power-ups you got. Like, it didn't matter really how well you raced or not, it's just like, oh, I got better power-ups than you, I'm gonna win this race. We have to see it out anyway. So I really hope that they find ways to kind of mitigate all that, you know, or not mitigate, you know what I mean, but like, make it so you're not completely, it's not decided from the moment you hop into the final challenge. So, yeah. Alright everyone, those are our greatest fears and hopes for Kirby Air Riders. Let us know what you think in the comments below of everything we said and what you're personally hoping for from this game, and when you might be seeing it. I am thinking we're going to be finding out about it pretty darn soon, much so on the sooner end. I don't think Sakurai would have teased it if it weren't, especially because, I mean, we have to, if it's still due out in 2025. Like, this is crazy. Like, the fact that September is even a consideration tells you how close we are, because there aren't that many more months past September that can even fall in, you know? So, I'm excited to see when and how this actually ends up releasing. So, stay tuned, everyone. With that, Nick, Don, where can people follow you guys at?
Yeah, you can follow me on my personal channel. That's Steftendo, STEFTNDO. Go check it out.
Don.
You can follow me at Nintendo on Blue Sky, Twitter, Twitch, what have you. It's NINTNDAAN.
Alright, you can find links to that in the description below. With everyone, thanks for watching. We'll catch you later. Bye. And click subscribe. Do it. Do it now.